Hi, I'm Bonnie Bochert from the Fairfax County Public Libraries, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Lisa Muir, and I'm a middle school librarian.
I have just read the most amazing book. It's called I Will Always Write Back, One Letter That Changed Two Lives by Alifirenka and Martin Ganda. And it's about a teenager as she's beginning the 7th grade in Pennsylvania. She had the opportunity to write a pen pal letter to someone in another country. And so she chose Zimbabwe. She didn't even know where it was or how to spell it, but it sounded exotic. So she wrote a letter about herself and sent it off to a school in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, Martin was the highest, he got the best grades in his class, and so he was selected to receive this pen pal letter and to write back to the girl in the United States. Well, he was so excited. They began to write letters back and forth. What Caitlin did not understand was that postage in Zimbabwe was the equivalent of $15 to mail a letter to the United States. Well, the school helped pay for the first 2 letters that Martin wrote to Caitlin, but it was weeks before his letters would get to her. In the meantime, Caitlin is a typical 7th grader going to the mall with her friends, buying jewelry, buying clothes, going to parties, going through boyfriends. Meanwhile, on Martin's side, his family is very poor. His father makes very little money, and he's part of a family with 4 kids, and they all have to work to make ends meet. Well, after Caitlin has written 3 or 4 letters and Martin has written 1 or 2 letters, his letters stop. And she begins to think maybe she has done something to upset him. And she writes to him a letter and says, "How come it's been a couple months and I don't hear from you? Did I do something? Are you mad at me?" Well, Martin cannot afford anymore to send letters to the United States. His father, in the meantime, has lost his job. They don't have money for rent. And in their culture, you don't talk about money problems. So he's afraid to tell Caitlin that he can no longer write to her because he can't afford the postage. He eventually gets enough money together by earning odd jobs, carrying suitcases for tourists, pouring tea. And in his next letter to her, he assures her, I do want to be your friend. And he shares with her the monetary problems that they're having. And then he puts at the end of his letter, "I will always write back." Well, then Caitlin realizes that there's a big difference between the American culture and the Zimbabwe culture. In the meantime, the war with the civil war in Zimbabwe has broken out.
I too read this book, Bonnie, and what hit my students when I shared this book with them is the differences in the American way of life and Martin's way of life. Caitlin, readers, sends Martin care packages, just simple everyday items that we take for granted. And Martin is sent a toothbrush. And he reads on the back of the toothbrush, and this blew me away, change your toothbrush every 6 months. That's what we do here in the United States, right?
Yes.
Readers, he had his same toothbrush for 7 years. When she goes to Ross, a local store that we tend to go to buy name brand items at very deep discount, she buys him Nike shirts, Reebok shirts, she buys him shoes. She puts them in a package. She has to mark the box, used textbooks, or all of her care packages would be ripped open and everything would be stolen. When they open up the package, readers, in Martin's little shanty that he lives in, it's the first time that his mother will get a pair of shoes. His mother will finally be counted in society. Readers, this is a very powerful book. I listened to this book on tape, and you get to hear one actor perform Martin and one actress perform Caitlin's story. It is very powerful, and it shows you the differences in our culture. This book is not that old. This story is not that old. It also has a follow-up. You can find out where they are now, and I love that this book was narrative nonfiction. Narrative nonfiction is a true story that reads just like a story. So readers, if you don't like to read these big fiction chapter books, try I Will Always Write Back by Caitlin, Alifirenka, and Martin Ganda, and you can find this in your nonfiction section of your middle school library or
your public library. I'm Bonnie Bochert.
And I'm Lisa Muir. Thank you for joining us for another book chat.